Hi, my name is Darren Stevenson. You're probably watching my YouTube channel. If you want to look me up, you can find me under that name in San Francisco on Facebook. I also have a blog at wondercloud.wordpress.com. I'm going to be talking today about a subject that I feel very intensely about, and it's something that has been really confusing and tormenting for me throughout my life. It is fundamentally the relationship of my species and what we think and do to other ecologies and animals and creatures on Earth. Today in Japan, it is January 19th, 2014, atrocities have been taking place against dolphin pods. Most days around the world, cetacean pods, which are highly advanced intelligences, are being tortured or murdered or poisoned by my people. And by my people, I mean human beings. I don't necessarily mean people that I agree with or feel any connection with other than the fact that we are the same species. Since I was very small, I had a very different experience of other living beings. An experience not much like what other people describe or appear to have, although we all share an intuitive sense of what it means to be alive. I'd like to try today to say some things that are very difficult to frame in words, but are very important to frame. And fundamentally they revolve around the necessity of the immediate and active intervention in any situation where a human collective is obliterating an ecology, torturing animals or other living beings, human or otherwise, or converting living places or beings or human beings into fictional benefits, wealth, money, power, etc. So I'm going to begin by trying to sort of redefine a little bit what it means to be alive, and also what it means to be intelligent and what it means to be human. The first thing I want to talk about is that we've got the wrong idea about what it means to be an organism. What I think we usually think of an animal as a kind. So that's a dog, there's a cat, I'm a human. And we are separate animals, we think, which is not true. And we also think that there's some kind of a hierarchy of importance, so that a dog is less important and a human is more important. Also not true. There is no abstract measure, and there is no law in nature. Laws are fictions made up by usually very confused human collectives. Nature is something we don't understand yet at all. We have no idea really what an animal is. We're very confused in general about what a human being is or might be or become. And we have no idea what a living planet is. And this is very obvious. You just look at what we do and say, and be immediately clear. We also have the wrong idea about how old things are. Let me explain that really quickly. I've said this many times before, but if you spin one human being around the sun one time, you get one human solar year. That's an abstract measure of time. That's not the best measure, but one of the things we forgot is that if you spin 7 billion of human beings around the sun one time, which is what happens in 1 year now, you get 7 billion human life years, which is more life years than the age of the Earth, which we think is only 4.3 billion years. So actually, in 1 year, our human population experiences more time than the entire history of Earth as we are ordinarily told of its age. What this means is that organisms are a kind of time complexification asset. And we do things with time similar to what stars do with energy. We make various forms of time, and since each of us is actually comprised of trillions of cells that live at a different rate, even one of those going around the sun one time is much more than 1 year. What that means is that the age of life on Earth is unthinkably older than any number we could ever come up with. We will never develop a formula capable of understanding it. There's more relational time here on Earth than the biggest collections of computational numbers we've ever imagined. And we are the living vessels of those relationships and expressions. Another thing I want to make really clear is that probably the most important asset on Earth is ecologies. We don't really see them because they don't look like animals, but they're super animals. They are the living places where countless trillions of relationships are woven together to produce forms of abundance that emerge as evolution, human beings, intelligence, and all of the things that life on Earth and my own speech and breathing depend upon in this moment. There is no separate organism on Earth. Earth is like a single cell. So fundamentally, we've got one transcendent meta animal here, a super animal. And the way that this organism is organized is very peculiar. It is a unity that exists in many orders of distributed participants, but they're not really parts. Each of those is an expression of the whole in such a way that your own mind and body are intimately involved with every organism on Earth. They arise out of those organisms, moment to moment, not in a cause and effect way like we ordinarily imagine. What that means is that any damage to any ecology is the most fundamentally egregious damage imaginable. It damages every living being on Earth. It stains the history of life on Earth, and it poisons the future in ways that become explosively more costly as they expand over time. So humans tend to burn down ecologies. They don't pay any attention to them whatsoever, except kind of as a fictional idea. And these, the fictional collectives that burn down the ecologies, which are formed of human beings, do so for reasons of power, wealth, self-aggrandizement, sport, or just gross misunderstanding. But there's something really unthinkable happening when we allow human collectives with fictional goals and fictional purposes, often these are corporations, to assault, torture, murder, rape, or destroy other living beings or places. What happens is, firstly, our humanity is falsified to us because we know and see those beings as extensions of our own people, and their acts reflect back to us on what it means to be human. So they are falsifying what it means to be human in such a terrifying way that we will probably have to lie to ourselves a bunch just to survive the emotions that we would normally and naturally have about that. Humans are not separate from other animals. We're trained to believe that we have a brain in our heads and that that's how we experience the world. There's some truth in that, but it's incomplete because the brain that we have is actually evolved to participate directly in the minds and relationships of living places and other beings. And this is why when humans see other beings murdered or tortured or destroyed, they feel very powerful feelings. It's not merely because you have certain neurons that they call mirror neurons that allow you to simulate what it might be like to be something else. No. In fact, what happens is that our mind is so profound and we're so confused about what it does that it's a vessel of participation in the direct experience of other beings. And if we were allowed and given ideas that encouraged us to have that experience, we would all have that experience all the time. I know that because I have this experience all the time. I can participate directly in the other minds of living beings and places and have experience and knowledge from those beings and places as if it were my own. When we are given models of animals and minds that are incorrect, these abilities simply don't develop. They become stunted or inhibited. We can then react to that in a variety of ways that are generally unhealthy and almost all of which are crippling. Today in Japan, they've been torturing dolphin pods, and they specifically took an albino child from its mother. And those two animals will probably die, but if they don't, they're going to be incredibly tormented by what our species is doing. That's a stain on all of humanity. When children learn about what human beings do, it informs what it means to be human for those children for the rest of their lives. And they can't escape the memory and the image in the same way that we cannot escape what we know of human history. All of what we learn about what humans do to each other, to living places, to animals, it informs the meaning of how we feel about our own humanity. No collective has the right to assault us, to destroy and falsify the meaning of our intelligence and our humanity that way. No human collective has the right to obliterate nature, to burn down ecologies that are older than the numbers that we use to talk about the age of the universe, right? Especially for extremely, how should we put it, fake, phony benefits that aren't even benefits. What we do is we hide all the damage, and then we come up with a few dollars and say we've made a profit, when in fact we've burned down what it means to be human, our intelligence, our health, and the future of life on Earth. That's not a profit, that's atrocity. I want to be really clear that most of the human collectives that do these things, whether they are scientific, commerce-based corporations, zoos, hunters, people that just have the ability to do it as sport or want to. When we see another human being put a bullet into an animal and that animal falls down dead, we know that a crime has been committed. And whether we're able to speak clearly about it or not, our hearts are damaged by that experience, and our minds and intelligence, what it means to be human, what it can mean to be human, is deeply injured by that. Now we have, as people, outside of all human culture and all human law, we have the authorization and the responsibility, and in many cases the obligation, to respond directly to these collectives with unstoppable force. What I mean is, we have the right to either forcibly redirect them to act intelligently or to destroy them. And because we are trained to be good citizens and to believe that we have to participate in this ridiculous nightmare that we're calling civilization, we are unfortunately disempowered, and we feel that we should petition murderers to stop murdering our humanity and our intelligence and our health. That's ridiculous. You don't petition murderers, you stop them. Physically, you intervene, forcibly if necessary. Now, the most important things that we can do not involve direct violence or force. They involve recovering human intelligence, integrity, relational and purposive understanding, and the ability to act in authentic, sincere human collectives, which we have very, very few of those, because all of our collectives are poisoned by their participation in false groups, ideas, civilizations, and religions, scientific paradigms, etc. So, because most of our groups are based on fictions, and almost none of them are based on intimate relation with the history of life on Earth, the living ecologies from which our own minds and bodies arise, the future of life on Earth, and the necessities of our health and humanity, since none of our collections are based on that, we have a very difficult time assembling anything that's even vaguely authentic. We need to change that immediately, because we will not survive, nothing will survive the incredible ferocity of the fictional collectives we've currently assembled and serve and participate in. And one of the things I really want to make clear is that your own body is not separate from the Earth. So if you imagine a circle of all of the, I'm going to start really tiny, all of the fungal cultures, all of the viral cultures, then all of the bacterial cultures, then all of the ecosystems, then all of the animals, then all of the human relationships. And you put like one person at the top of that, that's you. That's your body underneath you, and it's also your mind. You're not separate from those things. There's only one planet here. There's no way to be separate. What we have are unique modes of distinction that become intelligence when they relate across that gap, just like in our minds, okay, in our brains. We have neurons that appear separate, and we become intelligent when that forest of neurons is relating across all of those gaps. They're not really separate. See, they are you. You are one. And the earth is similar. She is a unity that is embodied in many orders of distinct organisms, but they are all basically one being. Yeah? And we emerge out of that and we dissolve back into it, and we emerge out and dissolve back in. You have the capacity to draw on, direct, learn from, and relate with that entire symmetry of life, which includes the entire history of life on Earth, and in many ways touches many aspects of the future of all of life on Earth. When human collectives organized for the purposes of profit, power, war, lies, fictions, or self-aggrandizement burn down the ecologies, they're actually burning down your mind and body right now in real time. They are also placing an irrevocable stain on the meaning of humanity that no one is authorized to do. There's no way that those people have any kind of thing like a right to do that. And they are stealing the authorization of our humanity and employing it to propagate atrocity that is really unthinkably wrong-minded, vicious, cruel, and lethally poisonous. So what I want to be really clear about is every animal has the right, not the right, what is the word? The mandate of being, yeah? To actively interfere whenever any other creature is being tortured or killed or lied about or caged, inhibited, crushed, in any way abused, okay? We have the natural authorization, just as living beings, to forcibly intervene and to put an absolute stop to that by any means necessary, really. Now, hopefully we can use the most intelligent and graceful means, the means with the most finesse. But in situations where, especially at this late date, we're in a very, very important period of the Earth's history where the remaining ecologies, all of them are poisoned, all of them, and they're being destroyed. And that means that the future of life on Earth is in grave danger, and that all of our evolutionary partners were burning them down. So they lifted us up to the top of the order of life, the orders of life on Earth. We got representational intelligence, we got hands. This is the most amazing evolutionary advance basically our planet ever came up with. And we're using it to just wipe out everything that lifted us up. This is a moment where every action that we make and every thought and intelligent gesture has 1,000 times the effect it ordinarily would. Similarly, every moment that we remain passive, ignorant, willing to be spectators, consumers, willing to just kind of watch from the sidelines or complain, those actions have 1,000-fold the effect that they otherwise would on a planet that was in relative balance. So right now we've tipped the balance so far toward extinction that we have two really important opportunities. The first is, if we continue, those acts have many thousands of times the effects that they ordinarily would. The second is, anytime we can stop or actually change to an intelligent action, we get explosive benefit out of that. I want to appeal to you to stop being spectators. And I specifically want to ask you to stop copying images on the internet, because that action actually wipes out ecologies and has zero effect. That is not activism. Okay, activism is when we go in action together, we learn very intelligent new ways of being human together that allow us to diffuse the false collectives, to inhibit their ability to overwhelm or dominate our world and our minds or our lives, our nations, our ecologies that belong to each living being on Earth and to no one else because they can never be owned or purchased. So I want to encourage every person who's listening to this to step outside of human culture completely, to recover the animal that you are and the intelligence, the responsibilities, the obligations, and the benefits that come with our human nature, which is nothing like what our cultures are selling us and tarring us with. When I was a child, I had to watch men bashing baby seals apart with clubs to get their skins to make money. And that, me and some of the other children who saw that were so outraged that we went out in the playground. I think we were 9 or 10 years old, and we decided that we would all work really hard to become wealthy so that we could build an army. Huh? And that with this army we would go and stop them. Now, we were a little naive, and we were sold the models of humanity that are, the toxic, commonplace models that we have today. We have so many abilities and powers we've never discovered because we're engaged in this bizarre, nonsensical situation of ideologies. Yeah? A circle of ideologies, all of which are fictional, all of which are absurd. From science to religion to what we call activism, it's nonsense. I mean, very, very little of it is muchly connected with nature, ecology, or even each other. So especially the formalized aspects that we sell in books and lectures and gurus and revolutionaries, once you become once the culture has a hold of you, it's going to make you its animal. That's the problem. And so I want to ask you to step outside of culture, recover your animalian nature, recover your animalian intelligence, recover the mandates and authorization to act in defense of other living beings, yourself, and your own intelligence now, while there's still some hope of that. Because if you follow the crowds, what you're going to end up doing when you copy memes, when you take millions of photographs, when you think that copying news items that have no effect but to support the causes they claim to be opposing, you're actually doing the opposite of activism. And because that's your activism moment, you're kind of, the cost is just going to explode over time. You're going to become more ignorant and less effective with every move. All of your friends with whom you do this with are going to copy your behaviors. When we copy images on the internet, that actually burns down ecologies. Okay? So memes are not a method of activism. We either form intelligent active collectives that accomplish and learn together very rapidly how to oppose and turn these situations over into something more like insight, the ability to grow and learn together, to preserve our ecologies and even benefit them, to contact them, to contact each other, ourselves, our intelligence, our actual potentials and opportunities, none of which really are being even seen yet. Trust me, we're about to see some very new ones. One of the problems that I want to mention before I go is just that our technology has wiped out our intelligence, the evolution of our intelligence, right? We've been pumping our evolutionary momentum into building machines, which means we're not evolving. We don't have any idea what we could become, because what we've become are the servants and makers of machines. That's burning us down. The most important message I think I can communicate here today, and I'm going to try again, this is really just a first effort, is this. The ecologies are the most important asset on Earth, and they are your body and mind. When you learn how to touch them with your mind, you're going to have experiences so shocking, so unthinkably beautiful, and so astoundingly educational that you're going to forget about pretty much everything human culture ever had to say. Until you've had that experience, I'd like you to suspend the idea that you know what it means to be human. And I want to make one other thing really, really clear. Other animals are your body. They are your mind. Ecologies are your body and mind. They are not distinct from you. They are not luxuries. They are not things you visit so that you can have a little relief from the machine noise and servitude in which you're buried. if we don't defend them right now with all due force and intelligence, we will soon be too stupid to have that opportunity, too sick, too broken, and too inhuman. Now, on the plus side, for anyone who wants to actually accept the challenge of leaving human culture and becoming an agent intelligence of nature, you're going to discover allies and assets unlike anything I intend to describe to you, far beyond the wildest visions of religion, way beyond the most fantastical stories of fantasy and science fiction. That is your birthright. That is your nature. If you want a taste of that, get in touch with me personally, and I will give you a taste instantly that will so overwhelm you that you will forget about every guru, drug, revolution, or book you ever read, because what you will find inside your own body, mind, and potential is 1,000-fold beyond anything you can find in human culture. Let's recover that together, with and for each other, the history of life on Earth, the promise of the future of life on Earth, and the rescue of the living beings who right now are depending on us to intervene in every possible way in their abuse, obliteration, and destruction. In this, I am your ally, and trust me, I am a stronger ally than anything you have ever encountered. Get in touch. Let's change this planet now. Thanks.